Welcome in, episode 159. What's right with Nick Wright? We have a new NBA champion for the first time in the history of their franchise. The Denver Nuggets are champions. Right as I say that, my monitor goes out. I assume we're still on the air. You guys will tell me if not. Maybe this is the basketball gods trying to torture me. Also new to the show, a new sponsor, our friends at Starbucks. Today's episode brought to you by Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee. Tune into moments that matter with the uplifting boost of Starbucks Mocha, Frappuccino, chilled coffee drink. Available now online or wherever you buy your groceries. So we have a ton to do today, as you may or may not be able to say, hey, I can see myself again. My daughter, Diora, my co-host for the last couple months, is not here today. She is doing graduation rehearsal for her graduation from high school, which is on Thursday. So it is just me, but you know what? It's kind of perfect because we have a lot to discuss from last night, from the finals as a whole, from my commentary on Nikola Jokic over the last few years, and where he and this Nuggets team falls in NBA history, and of course, on the losing side of the coin, playoff Jimmy and Heat culture fell just short once again. We will discuss all of that, but here's what missed the cut for today's show. DeAndre Jordan winning a ring before Chris Paul. You know, I didn't even think about that, but that is true. Is this the closest Russell Wilson gets to a title in Denver? I would imagine that is true. And Trae Young saying he is next up. Well, maybe that's a trade demand. If it's not a trade demand, it's a laughably incorrect tweet. But let's get to the actual game. Now, the producers wrote today's show out as if I were going to have a co-host to poke me and prod me and mock me, even though I don't know that I deserve much mocking. By the way, congratulations to Daniel, producer Daniel. His team won. More on that in a moment. I'm begrudgingly happy for you, Daniel. Well done. That is a nice sweatshirt. You guys won a title. You know what? Good for you. Now let's get to the show. So, as I mentioned, the Nuggets are champs. And this script says Jokic is undeniably the best in the world. More on that in a moment. Your Jokic take, my Jokic take, is officially an L, they say. Did you have the producers erase all your previous episodes yet? Here's the thing, guys. Nikola Jokic, right now, this moment, is, without a doubt, one of the 25 greatest players ever. Yesterday, he was not. That's simply how this stuff works. And we will discuss what the top 50 would look like later in the show. So, in a weird way, because I am such a nerd to NBA history, I like the fact, I don't like that I was wrong in picking the Heat, but I like the fact that Jokic has a ring and a truly dominant start-to-finish playoff run, because it makes those two MVPs that he won make sense in a way that Steve Nash's never will, in a way that Russell Westbrook's won. And I know some people still defend that, he averaged a triple-double. It didn't at the time, and it won't in history make sense. And we got to a spot that I felt, we don't have to rehash it today, that we were changing the rules in a way that favored Nikola Jokic, in a way that I was uncomfortable with. But that knife cuts in both directions. It is now incumbent upon us, most notably, the most ardent or vocal critics or skeptics of Jokic, to not then do the same thing to him, change the rules in a way that go against him. He gets the exact same treatment Giannis did. When Giannis was a two-time MVP with minimal, deep playoff runs and then broke through, he instantly became the, not universally, but near universally accepted best player alive. And on top of that, he instantly vaulted into the top 25 all time. I had him in the top 15 of the last 50 years. Now, Jokic is not the defender Giannis is, and I don't have Jokic ahead of Giannis on the all-time rankings, but he is now in that same neighborhood. When your team goes 16-4 in the postseason, when you go 8-1 in the conference finals and NBA finals, and you do it by averaging a 30, 13, and 9, he was 10 total assists, 10 total, away from averaging a triple-double, a 30-point triple-double for the postseason, and you do it on 55-46 splits, you get all the flowers. You have answered all the questions. I'm not into step skipping, and I really wasn't into giving a 6 seed an MVP, much less a second straight MVP. But it all kind of evens out, I suppose. Because while if my vote was the only vote that counted, Jokic would have one MVP right now. You can very easily justify his first one, to me, far more than his second one. And if he had only had one and hadn't won last year, or last year was his first, this year he would have won it. And he would have 2. So maybe in that way, he has the right number of MVPs and now has had the right amount of postseason success. There are no holes to poke. And I understand that there is going to be a kind of smug media cohort that is going to today, if they have not already, say, yeah, some of us didn't need to see him win a championship. Well, some of us did. And I don't think that is a flawed way of looking at things. Playoff basketball is different than regular season basketball. If it weren't, James Harden would be one of the 10 greatest players in the history of the sport. And Harden, I think, is a good player to bring up, because if you simply skipped the steps with Harden and said, oh, you see what he does in the regular season, you see him get to a conference finals with an overmatched team, you see he loses in the postseason, if we go years back I'm talking about, his first few years in Houston. He loses in the postseason to teams that are markedly better than him. Why can't we call him the best player in the world? Why can't we call him one of the 20 greatest players ever? The answer then would have been proven out correctly. Well, because until you see a guy do it in the playoffs on not a 2-round run, but a 4-round run, and you don't always have to win that 4th round. You don't always have to win the finals to prove it to us. Durant didn't win his first finals, but he proved it to us. LeBron didn't win his first 2 finals, but LeBron had proven it to us. Once you see it, you know. We've now seen it undeniably with Jokic, and I feel like even if the Heat had won this series, now would he be one of the 25 greatest ever? No. But he would have answered all the questions. His biggest liability is his defense, and defensively, I thought he was pretty damn good these last couple rounds. He did not wear down. He averaged 40 minutes a game this postseason. He went through Durant. He went through Durant and Booker, LeBron and AD, and then a Heat team that folks are now going to try to once again confirm their preconceived notions of, disregarding the fact that this Heat team dispatched of Milwaukee in 5 and was up 3-0 on Boston. This is a great championship Nikola Jokic just won. And I understand folks be like, he beat an 8 seed, a 4 seed, a 7 seed, and an 8 seed. That's bullshit. He beat KD and Booker, LeBron and AD, and then the team that leads the NBA in playoff victories over the last 4 years. A team that was in the finals 3 years prior and in the Game 7 of the conference finals last year. They beat worthy opponents. And they didn't just beat them. They dominated them. The Nuggets, it's a weird spot because they didn't really have all that many close games this postseason. In the first round, they won by 29, 9, 9, lost in overtime, closed them out by 3. They beat the Suns by 18 and 10, then lost 2, then won by 16 and 25. The Laker games, all 4 of them, that was their one series where they were all close games, but they won them all. All those games were in the balance at the end, and the Nuggets, most notably Jokic and Jamal Murray, made the plays they had to make. And they beat Miami in their 4 wins by 9, 15, 13, and then last night was a hell of a game. And it did feel like Miami was going to steal it at the end. They won last night by 5, and it was actually closer than that. This is a great championship. It's a great championship. And this is where, if I may be self-focused for a moment, folks ask me, and have asked me during this playoff run, oh, Nick, it's brutal for you. See what people are saying about you on Twitter, the old clips that are going around. Does it bother you? And the only thing that bothers me is if an old clip from 18 months ago is being positioned as if it was said 18 days ago. That I think is a little unfair. Like you have clips of what I was saying about Jokic when we were back doing this from my house, and it's being positioned like I was saying it during this playoff run. That's a little fake newsy. But other than that, none of it bothers me. And it's because I know the standard that I hold all great NBA or potentially great NBA players to. And one of 2 things is going to happen with the guys I'm skeptical of. Either I am going to be proven right, or they are going to clear those hurdles, and I will, without any hesitation, give them all the credit that they have earned. I'm just not into microwaving it. With the exception, of course, of Luka Doncic, who is, as you guys know, my large adult Slovenian son. Sorry, blood's thicker than water. I'm going to always have a special place in my heart for him. Now, The one thing I said more on in a moment that we didn't get to yet was Jokic undeniably the best player in the world. He gets to hold the crown and the belt. He gets to fairly be called that. But much like, and I disagreed with these people, when Giannis won his title and I said he's clearly the best player in the world, some people were like, yeah, I still think Durant's better. If I were hooked up to a polygraph and I were asked if I had the number one pick of the draft, every player's a free agent, who am I taking? Me personally, I'm still taking Giannis first. I am. Jokic would be second. But that's just my own personal, it's close enough that I totally understand the alternative argument. Totally understand it. And if people call him the best player in the world, as I think they will, they have a lot of evidence on their side. A lot of evidence. And that's what they've earned. And it is a great championship, man. And, well, we'll talk Jamal Murray when we get into the Dynasty stuff. Some of the other questions on this, the producers have written, where does this rank in terms of all-time championship runs? I don't have that. I've never made that list. There are some that certainly stick out to me. Dirk's in 2011 is pretty damn great. I think LeBron's in 2012, the last two rounds of it, beating the big three in Boston, then beating KD, Russ, and Harden's pretty great. I was just doing contemporary ones. The Warriors in 18 beating the 65-win Rockets, and then, in 18 that Cavs team was terrible except for LeBron. So, in contemporary NBA history, it's pretty damn good, man. And going through who they went through, a sneaky good one is and it looks better now, maybe now than ever. A sneaky good one was the Lakers in the bubble. Round 1 against Dame, round 2 against Russ and Harden, round 3 against Joker and Murray, round 4 against the Heat. That's like a sneaky, really good one. But a lot of how we view how heavy of a load Jokic carried in this is going to be how we end up viewing Jamal Murray. And we'll talk about that when we get to the Dynasty stuff. Now, to the other side of it. The producer's right. For all the talk about playoff Jimmy, he disappeared when the Heat needed him most. Was all the Jimmy buckets hype unjustified? That's so dumb. Sorry, producers. Guys, did Jimmy Butler have a disappointing finals? He did. Did this Jimmy Butler finals remind you of anyone's finals? An undeniably great player. And if you're like, yeah, LeBron in 11, no. That LeBron in 11 had an objectively bad series. Jimmy, these finals, averaged 22, 5, and 6 on 41 from the field, 37 from 3. 22, 5, 6, 41, 37. In 2016, Stephen Curry in those finals averaged 23, 5, 4 on 40% from the field, 40% from 3. So one more point, the same rebounds, 2 fewer assists, Field goal percentage, 1 point less. 3-point percentage, 3 points more. It was not a great finals. It was not a disastrous debacle of a finals. And the idea that we are going to... This is one of the things that I hate. I hated when it happened to LeBron. I hate when it happened to... I'll pick out some of my favorite guys. Mahomes in 2020. I hate when it happens really to anybody who gets penalized or more criticized for coming up a little short in the final round than someone gets criticized that was beaten along the way to the final round. The people today on the pre-show call for First Things First, they were like, does Jimmy still deserve to be in Club Superstar? And I almost ended the Zoom call. Like, what are we talking about? So you're not kicking Jason Tatum out of Club Superstar, who had his lunch eaten by Jimmy in the previous round, and that's why he didn't get to play in the finals, but now we're going to kill Jimmy because in the finals he wasn't great. And don't get me wrong, he wasn't great. Now, last night, he was really bad until the end when it looked like he was going to have a vintage playoff Jimmy moment with the threes and the free throws and getting them back. And then he had 2 really rough plays down the stretch. But this is where I think an interesting thing sports media does, and I gotta say, I actually kind of agree with it, is we criticize more harshly. 2 guys can have the same level of performance and receive very disparate amounts of criticism based on how close that performance was to what we think their peak performance is. Meaning, a player with slightly less talent or natural ability gets more of a pass than a player with immense amounts of natural ability that can't seem to rise in the biggest moments. And so there will be guys like Tracy McGrady who probably get a little unfairly maligned by history because those of us that watched him knew at his best he had an argument, wasn't a strong argument, but an argument that he was the best player in the entire sport. Conversely, a guy, I'm trying to think of an example that's not Jimmy Butler, but a guy whose overall talent level is not nearly that player's level, who seems to consistently be getting the most out of it, we have massive admiration for those guys. And Bruce said this on TV yesterday, and I'd never heard it put like this, and I think he's right, that Jimmy's single best trait is his competitiveness. That's what he is top 3 in the world at, just raw competitiveness. And it did seem like he ran out of gas a bit. He didn't seem anywhere close to Joker when it came to best player on the court. And honestly, that's probably okay. And this is where, even though I picked the Heat, so I probably should have seen this part coming. But this is where it is worthwhile reminding people that if you don't have one of the 25 greatest players in the history of the sport, or let's just go the last 50 years. If you don't have one of the 20 best of the last 50 years, you're not winning a title unless you were on the 04 Pistons. If we can go from 1980 to now, and it's like, who did the champions have? Well, the entirety of the 80s, the champions were Kareem/Magic, Bird, Moses/Dr. J, Isaiah. Those are all top 20 of the last 50 years. The 90s, Michael Jordan, Akeem, Tim Duncan. Check, check, check. The 2000s, Shaq/Kobe, the 04 Pistons, D-Wade/Shaq. I'm not going to do this in exact order, but you guys are going to follow me, of course. Duncan a bunch of times. Dirk Nowitzki. Kevin Garnett, who is right there, along with Paul Pierce and Ray Allen, who are not, but Kevin Garnett. LeBron James. Steph Curry. Duncan some more, or Duncan again. Kawhi Leonard would be the other, but he's not top 20 of the last 50 years, but he's a unique case because he was certainly trending towards that, and his body betrayed him. And Giannis, and LeBron again, and Steph again, and Durant with Steph, and now Jokic, who's in there. Jimmy Butlers are not the best player on champions, typically. And they should not be crushed for that. It is a very unique thing that in the NBA, post the 70s, essentially since the NBA-ABA merger, from 1980 to now, the worst player who was the best player on a champion, it is, and again, this is not an insult, but it is Chauncey, and then Kawhi, and then KG and Dirk. Those are the worst guys who were the best guys on a champion. Think about that. Honestly. And so I don't think we should be in the business today of crushing Jimmy Butler. I think that'd be ridiculous. All right, next. Jamal Murray said that this title would be the first of many. Are we witnessing the beginning of the next NBA dynasty? And if not, who's standing in their way? So I want to pump the brakes on dynasty talk for now, because there are a few things standing in their way. But before I get to that, where I do want to give the Nuggets credit and their front office credit is they made let's try to get a final piece of the puzzle trade in Aaron Gordon, and they got it. He was great for them. They made some very savvy pickups in KCP and Bruce Brown. And they built a champion. There are two things, and they just made a trade recently, understanding that due to the new CBA, they're not going to be able to be big free agent spenders. They grabbed another first-round pick because they want cost certainty. They want young, cheap players. That's very smart. There are two things that would concern me if I were a Nuggets fan about, could this be a dynasty? The first one is obvious. What do you have in Michael Porter Jr.? Because I know what you have in his contract. What you have in his contract is 4 more years. Sorry, let me take a sip of this delicious Starbucks, new sponsor of the show. What you have is another 4 years, and how much is it? Another $150 million, right? So 4 years, $150 left for Michael Porter Jr. That's a swallow hard and hope situation. But the other question, and the biggest question to, can this team be a dynasty, is not about Nikola Jokic. It is about Jamal Murray. How good is your second guy? Because if we are being honest, Klay Thompson, as great as he was pre-injuries, was not good enough to be the second best guy on a dynasty. Was the second best guy on a champion, and it looked like he could be the second best guy on a dynasty, and you had Draymond Green there, and they needed to go get Kevin Durant. Now, is Jamal Murray good enough to be the second best guy on a team that wins another title? I think unequivocally. Joe Dumars was. There's we can find that. Akeem didn't really have a second best guy on the first team. On the second team had Clyde. But a dynasty, you need Jamal to take a significant leap. And we do this weird thing where certain guys go from wildly underrated to a touch overrated without ever being properly rated. And I do fear that is about to happen with Jamal Murray. Because folks are going to be throwing around the term superstar pretty liberally. And I think we are a couple leaps away from that for Jamal. Unless you think this league's got 20 superstars. But unquestionably, I'm just looking at my club superstar right now. Guys who are currently better than Jamal. Yeah, this is not in order, but it's just guys. AD, Giannis, Bron, Dame, Luka, Jimmy, Tatum, Booker, Durant, Steph, Embiid, Jokic. Assuming he gets back on the court, Ja. I think Donovan's better than him. I think SGA's better than him. De'Aaron Fox, it's at least a discussion. Anthony Edwards, certainly next year it's a discussion. I didn't mention Kawhi because we don't know how much he's going to play. So now we're at 17, 18 guys. Jamal has turned himself into a star and a fringe top 20 player. I think he's a better player than Trae Young. I think he is a better player than Karl Anthony Towns. I think he's a better player at this point of his career after all the injuries than Paul George. Certainly better than Bradley Beal. But if you're talking dynasty, he needs to take one more leap. I'm not saying he can't. But dynasty is a very, and again, I went over the list of champions over the last 40 years. If we do all the dynasties or semi-dynasties in history, you have Russell Celtics, you had Bill Russell, one of the 5 greatest players of all time, along with, a different collection of 4 or 5 other Hall of Famers. You had the Lakers in the 80s that had the 2nd and the 4th greatest players ever in Kareem and Magic, and even though Kareem near the end of that was on the downslope. And then you also had another Hall of Famer in James Worthy. Bird Celtics were not a dynasty. They won 3 total titles and never won back-to-back. Isaiah's Pistons were not a dynasty. Jordan's Bulls obviously were. You have the third greatest player ever, plus another no doubt Hall of Famer, could be the best player on a really good team, as he proved, not a champion, but a really good team the very next year in Scottie Pippen. And then for the last three championships, you added another no doubt Hall of Famer in Dennis Rodman, who for the first two of those three championships was a great player and maybe the greatest coach ever. Shaq and Kobe's dynasty, you had Shaq and Kobe. Duncan's a weird one because it was a great run, but not necessarily a specific dynasty. With the first championship, you had David Robinson that was still really good. Second championship, kind of Duncan on his own. And then the next two, you have Manu and Tony, who were great players. Your second best guy, not really good enough to be the second best guy on most champions, but your third best guy, way better than most other teams' third best guy, plus the coach. And then the last one, 7 years after the fourth, you add Kawhi Leonard to that. Young Kawhi Leonard, but still Kawhi Leonard. The Heat didn't really have a dynasty. They went to 4 championships. You have LeBron and Wade. And, of course, Chris Bosh is your third guy. Dynasty. Can't be throwing around dynasty that easily, guys. So I'd pump the brakes on that. But I would set, if you set the over-under on Joker career titles at 1.5, at this point, I would take the over. I think he gets one more. The other thing that hurts him in that regard is the late blooming, which was similar to Giannis. Like, not amazing players right when they came in the league. They had to grow. But that right there is the most interesting and exciting, to me, NBA story of the next half decade. Joker and Giannis. A fight to be the apex predator of the league. Joker and Giannis, they both have 2 MVPs. They both have 1 title. They both have 1 all-time playoff run. They both have 1 finals MVP. Joker is 28. Giannis is 28. 2 28-year-olds in their prime. Go get it. That should be the rivalry of the next half decade. And then we see, can Booker and Durant put a run together over the next couple years? Can Luka get the right people around him? Does LeBron have one, and AD have one more run in them? That's out west. And out east, will Embiid ever have a run like this? It's not looking like it. Can't close the door on it, though. Tatum and Brown. Did they kind of reach their ceiling? So, and then there is the looming cloud of what will Victor Wembanyama actually be. So I'll fade the dynasty, but I'll buy another championship. All right, last one before we take a break. Nick, you left Jokic off your top 50 all time. That didn't age well. Where does he rank now? All right. When I did the 50 best of the last 50 years, Joker had won 1 league MVP ever, okay? Had 1 playoff run to the conference finals. That was it. It was totally legitimate at the time to not have him in the top 50. Now, where would he slot in? So, let's look at my top 25. Number 28, I know I said 25. Number 28 is a center, though, Patrick Ewing. Joker, obviously, is ahead of him. I just want to check Joker's. So Joker's got 3 first-team All-NBAs, 2 second-team All-NBAs, Obviously a two-time MVP. I'm going to have to try to keep this in my head. He's a two-time MVP, and how many, I'm just trying to look up the things that I weighed a lot. And he's got 2 other top 5 MVP finishes. He has a 4th in 2019 and obviously a 2nd this year. All right, so 3 first teams, 2 second teams, 2 MVPs, a finals MVP, and 2 other MVP top 5s. Okay. So number 25 of the last 50 years, I had Harden. He's obviously ahead of Harden. Number 24, I had Stockton. Stockton has 2 first teams, 6 second teams, 0 top 5 MVP finishes, but his all-time counting stats are bananas. He's obviously ahead of Stockton. Number 23 of the last 50 years, I had David Robinson. He has 4 first teams, 2 second teams, 1 league MVP, 2 seconds, and 2 thirds, and a defensive player of the year. He obviously also has 2 titles, one of which he was really good on. I think he's better than David Robinson. Number 22 is Kevin Garnett. 4 first teams, 3 second teams, 1 MVP, 2 seconds, 5 top 5 finishes. I think he's better than Kevin Garnett. Garnett, we don't talk about it much, but Garnett had some real playoff struggles. And it wasn't just in Minnesota. He was not a guy you could give the ball to and just, you knew he was going to come through. Great defensive player. All-time defensive player. Number 21 is Chris Paul. He's now better than Chris Paul. He just is. That's what a championship does for you. Number 20 was a projection, if you remember. I had Luka. You got to obviously have him ahead of Luka. Number 19 I had was D. Wade. I do not think he's better than D. Wade yet. So, right now, he would be, for me, the 20th best of the last 50 years. And how many guys in all of NBA history would that leave? Obviously, Wilt, Russell, and West would be the 3 super old timers I'd have ahead of him. I'd have him ahead of Oscar and Elgin. And Mike and Pettit are just too hard. It's just too hard. You got to give credit for what they did, but come on. So that's where it would be for me. He would be the 20th best of the last 50 years. The guys still to catch would be D. Wade, Barkley, Karl Malone, and Karl Malone's a very unique one because his regular season resume is that of a top 4 player of all time, and his postseason resume is not great. 2 finals appearances as the best player, but didn't really come through huge. But he also was a 2-time MVP, 9 top 5s, 11-time first-team All-NBA, 3rd most points of all time. I have Dirk still ahead of him. Dirk, oddly, is very underrated by some people. I don't quite get it. Isaiah Thomas, who is wildly underrated by people, but they're just wrong. I just won't even engage them on it. And then Giannis, Durant, Moses, Dr. J, Steph, Shaq, Dream, Bird, and we're getting to really hollowed ground. So, my guess is Joker ends up somewhere in that top 15 of the last 50, and with a chance to crack the top 12. The problem there is, for any of these guys, is Durant is still playing. He could climb, even though it's not likely. And Giannis is still playing, and I think he will climb. It's going to be very interesting to see who climbs higher, Joker or Giannis. But that's where we are. And that's what a championship does for you. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a very quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to do a lightning round B block. And then I will try to spend some real time on your guys' questions before I go do TV today. But that was a 45-minute opening segment paying tribute because we now have, it's always exciting when the all-time greats club, oh, you know what? Let's just stay here for a second. That's a fun exercise. The all-time greats club, when guys got admitted. Maybe I should do this on TV today. Dusty, if you're watching from the First Things First studio, text the show, but also, jot this down. All-time greats, date of admittance. That's not Dusty texting me. I wish it were, though. Hopefully he's watching. So Nikola Jokic got in the club in 2023. He is the latest guy in there. The most recent guy in, I should say. No one was admitted last year. Giannis got in 2021. No one was admitted. Kawhi looked like he was getting in, but no one got in 2019. In 2017, Kevin Durant got in. In 2015, Steph Curry got in. In 2012, LeBron James got in. In 2011, Dirk got in. In 2003, Duncan got in. In 2001, Shaq and Kobe both got in. And that's it. Those are the only guys all time. Oh, you know what? In 2011, or 2012, pardon me, it was LeBron and D-Wade who got in. D-Wade already had a ring, but he wasn't to that level yet. They both got in there. And that's it. Of the last 20 years. Those are the all-time greats, and when they got in, Joker, welcome to the club, man. Pretty special stuff. And he's in there. Congrats. Congrats to everyone. Even Daniel. Quick break, right back. What's right? Welcome back in. What's right with Nick Wright? And guys, listen, my life moves fast. Between this show, the TV show, my daughter getting ready to graduate high school, sometimes I could just use a pick-me-up. And Starbucks Ready to Drink coffee delivers an uplifting boost that helps you tune into the moments that matter wherever you are. Bottled Frappuccino, chilled coffee drink is inspired by Starbucks Cafe favorites and comes in 4 delicious flavors: mocha, vanilla, caramel, which this one is, and regular coffee. I like to start my day with coffee, especially when I'm recording a new episode of What's Right. My go-to is Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee for that uplifting boost. I need to conquer the day. I love the range of Starbucks ready-to-drink coffee, whether I want to grab a Starbucks Frappuccino chilled coffee drink or a Nitro cold brew. So many good choices for whatever mood I'm in. Starbucks coffee, ready for right now. Shop the full lineup online or in store wherever you buy your groceries. It is really good, guys. It's very convenient. And for some reason, I don't spill this on myself as much as I do those to-go coffee cups that I've stained these. You know, this, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I only break out the full NBA sweatsuit outfit on special days. And, you know, we've crowned a new champion. I just came up with the gimmick of, you know, when someone got into the all-time great club and Joker's the newest guy in. It's like the Heisman House, except there's not a car dealership sponsoring it. All right, by the way, speaking of sponsorships, I'm not going to, you know, I didn't say on the air what type of car I was buying. I did end up buying it. I texted it privately to Matt. But what I will say is well, you know what, I shouldn't name car dealership. I don't know what I should do. We should have a car dealership sponsor. Matt, you know the car that I bought. See if that helps us get a car dealership sponsor. Okay. Before we get to your questions, rapid fire B block, because I also have to do Colin Cowherd's show today. Not hosting, but go on with him. Saquon Barkley, not happy with the franchise tag. He even seemed to entertain the idea, at least temporarily, of holding out for the season. It's not really holding out, just refusing to sign the tag. Here's my advice for the Giants. Right now he's tagged 1 year, just under $11 million. He doesn't want to play on that. The Giants don't want to commit big money to a running back. I get it. He has said he doesn't need to reset the marketplace. What if you go to him with a contract offer of 3 years, $45 million? I said on TV yesterday, $20 million guaranteed. Let's up that to $22.5 million. Pardon me, $22.5 million guaranteed. So you tell Saquon, listen, here's the deal. You will be paid like a top 3 running back. We will more than double the guaranteed money that you had on the franchise tag. It's $15 million a year each of the next 3. And if something terrible happens this year, you still get all of this year's money and half of next year's money. If you're awesome this year, then you're going to get all of this year's money and all of next year's money. And if you're awesome the next 2 years, you're going to get the full $45 million. If you're the Giants in a vacuum or on Madden, I understand why committing even that type of money to a running back, especially a running back who's had some injury concerns, does not typically make sense. But this is where the human being component has to matter. You are trying to build on the momentum of last season and build a new culture in that organization. Saquon is the most popular and the most talented player in that locker room. It has massive negative downstream effects if you alienate him. So just like shitty guys end up having to take a haircut because teams don't want to deal with them in the locker room, great guys and great leaders, you got to pay a premium for. Saquon is that. That's what I would do. All right, time for a game, this or that. Aaron Gordon was kicked in the groin but got called for a shooting foul on Jimmy Butler. The NBA is rigged or fair? All right, well, the NBA is obviously not rigged. I don't know what's fair or what's not. But here's what I do know. I absolutely thought that call was going to stand. I like Van Gundy and Jackson. I know DeMonte disagreed with me on it. And we can show his tweet if we want. Daniel tweeted to DeMonte, waiting for DeMonte to tweet where he says the refs are making about themselves. And DeMonte said, that would be giving them the attention they are seeking. I won't do it. Well done, son. Here's the thing. Jimmy did not do on that play a wild kicking motion. His leg did extend, but it was at least semi-reasonable. And Gordon ran through him. Now, do I think that's a foul? No. Do I think it is close enough to being a foul that once they call it a foul on the floor, they're not going to overturn it? Exactly. So I wasn't shocked by that. I also don't think it was a bad challenge. It was late enough in the game and a critical enough moment. It's worth the risk. But I did not think it was a clear-cut, obvious this is getting overturned. I just didn't. Next, rumors are swirling that if Houston misses out on Harden, they could be interested in Kyrie. This would be a bad idea or the worst idea. It makes no sense. Kyrie to Houston, I have talked about, and I think other people have as well, that an interesting possible free agent destination for Chris Paul, if he is released, is San Antonio. Like, try to build a winning culture instantly for Wembanyama and get him, a player who's going to set him up and all that stuff. That's just like Kyrie to Houston, except the exact opposite. You have all these young, impressionable players. I wouldn't, if I were the Rockets, I don't know if there's a player in the league that I'd be less interested in than Kyrie, and they can't win with or without him next year. Aaron Rodgers called last 6 weeks the most fun he's had in a while. He's been on good behavior for a suspiciously long time. Rodgers will get through the offseason without an incident or with an incident. Oh, I think without an incident. I don't think Rodgers has a lot of major incidents. I just think he's a pain in the ass. But I think he'll get through it without an incident. Novak Djokovic won his 23rd Grand Slam at the French Open this weekend. The best Serbian athlete right now is Djokovic or Joker. The best right now is Jokic. The best of all time is Djokovic, as he now has the most Grand Slams ever, and some people would argue he's the greatest tennis player of all time. I probably unfairly have him as the third best. I know that's not fair. I know I can't really fully justify it. I just like Nadal more, and I still think Federer is the best I've ever seen. Also, I was on Alcaraz, and I was very upset. After his visit to Tennessee went great, DeAndre Hopkins is going to be heading to the Patriots. Better fit, Titans or Patriots? Neither, but if you got to pick one, go with the Titans. But the answer is neither. And lastly, Nick, you were so close to winning at the Belmont Stakes, along with your daughter Deanna and her best friend Karis. Forte screwed me, though. I basically made a bet that I would have won the exacta, the trifecta, and the superfecta. All I needed, I will admit, it was not the soundest gambling strategy ever. But here's what I did. There were 9 horses in the race. There were 3 15-1 or longer shots. I eliminated those 3. And then there was the favorite, Forte. I eliminated him too. And then I took horses 2 through 6 and put them in everything and boxed them in everything. And so what I needed was none of the long shots nor Forte to finish in the top 2, and I would have won a little. If none of the long shots nor Forte finished in the top 3, I would have won a lot. If none of the long shots nor Forte finished in the top 4, it would now be called the What's Right Stakes. I think I would have owned the track. And it was all looking good until the stretch run. When Forte came from 5th, then he got to 4th, and I'm like, okay, the superfecta was... Because my other horses were all there. My other horses finished 1st, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, I think. Or 1st, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. But then Forte makes a really late kick, and I'm like, oh, the trifecta is dead. But I'm going to hit the exacta, so I'm going to be okay. And then literally, at the wire, Forte puts his damn nose down. And there is like all they put up on the screen is that Arcangelo won the race. And then they say photo for 2nd, 3rd. And it took like 5 minutes and Forte won. And so I lost. The shame of it is, and this is a true story, this man who really looked like he knew something. And I should have I'm so mad at myself. This is such a terrible job by me. This man walks up to me, and I'm with my daughter and her best friend, the 9-year-old and her best friend, before the race. Says hi, shakes my hand, old, I think he's Italian guy. He then comes back like 20 minutes later with two $20 tickets in his hand. And he said, like, pulls me in close. He's like, Archangelo's got this. I bought a ticket for your 2 daughters. He thought they were both my daughters. Fine. I'm like, yeah? He's like, yeah. He's 7-1. He's winning. And somehow I didn't recognize that as the sign from the gambling gods that it was, that I should have just put all my money on Arcangelo, who won the race easily. And the only winners of that race were my 2 daughters, my daughter and her best friend, who both had they're 9 years old, had a $20 7-1 ticket that got paid out. And so the question here is, teaching Deanna to bet the horse is a good idea or the best idea? It's the best idea. They had a wonderful time. They can't wait to go back. We answer your questions next. What's right? All right, welcome back in episode 159, What's Right with Nick Wright. The Nuggets are champions. I answer your questions now. Pat's Nation. Nick, now that Nikola Jokic has a title, outside of Embiid, who do you think has the most pressure to win a ring? So if we're talking about guys who have never won one, Embiid's obviously at the top. Harden is still very high. There will unfairly but sneakily be some added pressure on Luka. I wonder if Jimmy... You know what? None of those are the right answer. It's Tatum. He's been to a finals. He's been first team All-NBA back-to-back years. Been a top 5 MVP guy. I think the ship has probably sailed on Harden. Outside of Embiid, I think it's Tatum. Next, Mr. Brownstone says, can Denver's offensive system, point center, supplant the need for a second great player in your dynasty argument? No, I don't believe so. Not to be a dynasty. Because the other thing is, teams in the West in particular are going to adjust. And they're going to adjust by while there's been an emphasis on wings and 3-and-D guys, there is now, if you are a Western Conference team trying to win a title, you are going to spend a couple roster spots on 7-footers just to spend fouls and minutes up. So, no, I still think, to be a dynasty, I still think you need the second start. Jake Fisher says, do you think the success of Giannis and Jokic will cause other teams to be more patient with high upside young players? They should be. Now, those guys are special all-timers, but yes, they should be. VKC asks, or VixC asks, was this Jimmy's best chance, or do you think Pat Riley is cooking something up? Oddly, I think last year might have been his best chance. I think they could have beaten the Warriors, but they didn't get there. As far as Pat Riley cooking something up, he's always cooking something up. I do wonder if that's where Kyrie goes. I'm not saying that's where he goes, but I wonder if that's on the board. Nathan Berger says, thoughts on Christian Braun winning 3 high school state titles, an NCAA title, and now the NBA Finals. I was one of his high school teammates from Kansas. Well, shout out to you, Nathan Berger, who you also, it would appear, are a state champion. I think it's great, and I do think he's a winning player. He's obviously never going to be a great player, but he's a winning player and a hard-nosed, tough player. I like him. Alex asked, at graduation, will Diora's principal call her Diora What's Right? No, it would have made me prouder than you could imagine, but she opted against it. All right, fun show. I got to run. I got to get to work. I'll see you. By the way, no show Thursday. My daughter's graduating. I'll see you guys on Tuesday. What's Right? Hey, it's Nick Wright. Thank you so much for watching. Please do us a favor. Click subscribe. It helps my ego, and DeMonte's got a financial bonus writing on a number of YouTube subscribers, so help him out. And also, click the bell. I don't know what the bell does, but they tell me to tell you to click the bell. And your audio listeners, people that have commutes, drives, whatever it is, subscribe to the podcast as well, wherever you get the podcast. Same show, just in your ears instead of through your eyes. All that, check it out. Appreciate y'all.